leave your comments. Feel free to engage with each other. Obviously about the topic, there's a few times I've gone live and people are having their own discussions, and that's fine. But if you're asking a question, if you're asking me a question, then it would need to be about the topic and not about like what I'm wearing or, you know, the weather. Anyway, this is what I'm going to be talking about today because it's something exciting that I want to share with you guys, because I want to say I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. Thank you for sticking with this channel for many years. Thank you for always leaving comments, even when I'm putting like little posts or whatever I'm doing. I really appreciate my subscribers because you really do engage with this channel, which makes me want to make better videos for you, makes me want to engage as well with you. So you all already know that I'm a counsellor, so I've been a counsellor since 2009. I'm also a coach, a well-being and confidence coach, so I do coaching. And the next thing that I want to get into and what I'm going to be kind of experimenting with is becoming a career coach, so career coaching. So career coaching really is where you are coaching people around areas such as work stress, so managing stress in the work environment. Usually it's more to do with people feeling stuck or lost in their job and wanting to improve their skills and their experience so they can get a different job, feeling like they don't know which direction to go in on their career path, whichever it falls into. It's something which I've always had an interest in. When I worked as an EAP counsellor for an employee assistance program, I was dealing with lots of calls from people who were really stuck in their job, really feeling stressed, feeling like after 15, 20 years, they just didn't have the same enthusiasm for it. And I was giving advice and guidance anyway in that role. Even now, as a counsellor, there's lots of people who are coming for different things. So it might be stress, it might be mental health, but then it might be linked with their job. And I'm giving that sort of guidance anyway. So I just thought to myself, I might as well make it official so that I can do this alongside my other roles. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background as well, so that gives you an idea of why I feel I might be suited to this. And that's because since the age of 16, I've always worked. I've never been out of work. I've always gone for interviews. I've always got the interview. I can think of 2 occasions. This is really funny because the one interview I remember, the reason I didn't get the job, it was to work in a prison as a social worker. This was when I was a social worker. Thanks for joining, whoever joined. And I went for the interview. I knew it was in a prison. And then when the woman asked me how I would manage, hi, I'm Ash, how I would manage going in and out of the prisons, I said something really silly. I think I said to me, oh, at least I won't be there. I'm only there for a few hours. At least I won't be in the prison. You know, at least I won't be a prisoner. And that didn't go down too well. So that was one thing. But also all the questions that were related around, oh, hi, oh, okay, hi. I'm not a prison officer, no. I was saying that I went for a job. It was in a prison. And I kept saying that I didn't really like the idea of being in that prison environment, but I'll be glad when I leave. But basically, that's not a nice thing to say if you're going to be working there. And that's the one job I remember where I didn't get, but I knew when I left I wasn't going to get that job. Every other interview I've been for, I've either been offered the job, and at one point I had 5 offers on the table for jobs, and out of the 5 I had to choose one. So I'm giving you this sort of background because it's just giving you an idea of like what has led me into coaching a male prison. I can't remember. I think it was a young offenders institution, and I was a social worker, and the role was to go in and obviously do social work within the prison. Anyway, that's kind of the basis of it. So as I've said, I've just got an interest in this. I've got a real interest in becoming a career coaching. So I'm going to give you a taster today. So all I'm going to do on this live stream is talk a little bit about, you know, how to get a better chance of getting the job. So some of the issues people are facing when it comes to work is they're in a job that they don't like. That's the common theme. They're not getting interviews. So you said you're stressed, Bush. Okay, yeah, well, hopefully this video might help, but you can send me a private message afterwards as well and give me more context of like where the stress is coming from. So some people are not getting the interviews. So they're doing loads of applications, but they're not getting callbacks. Some people are struggling when they're in the interviews, or they're just not getting the job after they've been to the interview. Some people are wondering whether they need to become self-employed or whether they need to stay in the job they're in. Other people don't have the right skills, but they do want to do a particular job. So where I'm usually good with... everyone says things about my accent. I'm from the West Midlands, but I did used to live in West Yorkshire, so but that was years ago. But people keep saying I've got a mixed up accent. I don't know. I don't think I have. I think I've got a strong Brummie accent, but that's what people keep saying. Anyway, back to the video. So I'm going to give you 6 tips that will help you to get interview ready or will help you to get the job. So anyone that is watching on this, thanks for watching, Yasmin, brilliant. Anyone that is watching, leave your comments, talk about, you can let me know if you've been to interviews. And so yeah, you did hear the slight Birmingham accent. Yeah, see, I told you it would come out. I think it's quite strong. So the first thing, this is really important. So I'm going to try to make this video really succinct because I could go on for hours on these sorts of things, but I just want to make them succinct. When I then set up my career coaching, because the first step I'm going to do is to get a proper certified qualification. Then I'm going to set up my social media, and then I'll be making more of these videos. Oh, Yasmin, you're from Birmingham as well. Okay, brilliant. So getting interview ready, the first thing is to research the company. The amount of people that go for an interview, whether you're going for an interview at McDonald's or whether you're going through a Fortune 500 company or, a top organisation, you need to do your research. You can't just walk in there and just think that you're going to impress them with the answers to the questions. You might do, but they want to know, why are you coming to their company versus another company? That's one of the biggest interview most common interview questions. Why do you want to work for this company? Now, if you don't have anything unique that is linked to what that company does, it's not just about saying, oh, I've always wanted to do this type of work, or I'm really hardworking, or that sort of thing, then that's fine. How are you from? Hi, I'm Owusi from Uganda. It's more about something linking you to that particular company. So when I was a social worker and I was going for interviews, I would look through the Ofsted reports that they do. And I would then say, oh, I noticed that you have an outstanding Ofsted report, so this is why I want to work for your company. Or I'd say 50% of the fostered children in your organisation are from this region. Or you come up with something so they know you're interested, they know you've done the work, you've done a bit of research. So that's really important. The second thing that people sometimes don't do is they don't ask a question at the interview, and it's really important. It's not as important as other things. But what you've got to realise is an interview is just based on connection. Do I have any tips for university interviews? Not at the. This one is more for work, but some of these things will still apply, Yasmin, because the key thing, which I'm just about to say, is about you have to build connection with the people who are interviewing you. The amount of people that go into an interview and you just it's because of the nerves. You get really robotic. You're answering the questions. You're forgetting to smile. You're stuttering over sort of things what you might have been rehearsing. You're not building any warmth or rapport, and then you'll be forgettable because you'll leave and they'll think, because I went to one interview and the woman actually said, you don't have as much experience as the other candidates, but we like you. We like you, so we're going to give you, she didn't say we're going to give you the job because we like you, but I know that I wasn't as experienced as some of those other people. They had more years on me in it. This was when I was a social worker in the beginning and I wanted to go into a new field of fostering. I had no fostering and adoption experience, but I got a job with a fostering agency because of how I presented in that interview. So you've got to build rapport. You've got to have good eye contact. You've got to be interested in what the interviewers are saying. It's no point looking at your watch because you're thinking, oh, I've got to go to my next interview. It's no point having desperate energy. I've got to get this job. Because all that is doing is making you less human to the people in front of you. You need to relax a little bit. You're still in a professional setting, but you need to give something, give a bit of warmth. So the next thing is, if you feel comfortable and if it's appropriate and if it doesn't feel fake, give a little compliment. The interview that I just mentioned that I got as a fostering social worker, the three women walked in, and the lady, she had on some snake skin or tiger skin shoes. I still remember it. This was about 2013. And I looked down, I saw her shoes, and as we got into the room, I just said, oh, I love your shoes, and that was it. And sometimes I'll say to someone, oh, I like the colour of your tie, or whatever. I think you have to judge it. It depends on the interview you're going for, depends on how comfortable you feel, and it doesn't have to be about someone's appearance or what they're wearing. It could be anything. It could be, oh, I remember walking into a place and saying, this smells beautiful in here, or I love the decor, or that's a lovely picture, or that's an interesting couch. Whatever it is, what you're just trying to do is connect. It's small talk, isn't it? But you know, it's still worth it. When I was working in counselling centres, as I'm bringing my client through, I'm not just going to be in silence. You know, I might just have a little bit of a chat as we're walking towards the counselling room. So you've said, what do you do if you're trying to get your first job? Because usually they always ask for work experience. What if you don't have any? That's a good question, Yasmin. This is where I suppose if they ask for work experience, because that's another thing, this is going to be on my list today as well, you need to look at the job spec, because if you don't fit with the criteria that they're asking for, you're already setting yourself up in a way, because that's something that some people don't do. And that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute, Yasmin. So that's a brilliant question. So the next thing is you need to be different from the other candidates. You need to have something to stand out. This is similar to, some of these things are the same as going on a first date. If someone has been on loads and loads of dates with lots of people and they're asking the same questions and saying the same things, what is going to be different about you that's going to stand out? What is going to make that person leave and think, I can't stop thinking about this person? And you have to have the same mentality for interviews. If they've interviewed 12 candidates in the same day, what is going to make them think we have to have this person for our company? If we lose this person, then we're going to be missing out. There was something about them, there was something about her or him. So that can either be anything from putting yourself forward and say you're going to do something different, say something that wasn't on your CV, bring that into the room. Like I've been to interviews where I've said, oh, I love arranging open days, or I'm really good at facilitating groups, or I don't mind about doing extra hours at the weekend. I'm not telling you everyone you should say that. Only promise things that you're going to deliver on. Don't just start saying things you're going to do and then not do it. But I think if you show up in a different way to how the other candidates have, they might go home and think, do you know what? We'll get our money's worth out of that person. Or she sounded really keen, so maybe they'll go for you instead. And the final bit in this category, because I'm going to move on to the next one, is look your best. So, I mean, I could talk about this for about 3 hours. What you have to realise is that people make an opinion of you in 7 seconds. That's a theory and that's the truth. They will judge you in 7 seconds. So when you walk into that interview room, all the people are looking you up and down from head to toe, and there's a lot of information as human beings we can take in that time. If you think you're going to get away with going to the interview and you're not going to do your hair, you're going to wear a shirt that you've had for ages with a little stain on it, no one will notice. You're going to wear scuffed shoes, you're going to wear weird looking trousers or skirts, where it's either too short, they're not, those trousers what men wear sometimes, where it's like they come down not to their ankles, but they come a bit too short, and then they've got no socks, and then they put the shoes on. And I'm not judging anyone, because do you know what? That's a style, that's fashion. You're going into a professional setting and you're being interviewed. They're judging you on everything. They're judging you on your CV, on your body language, on your communication, on your dress. So for me, I would make the effort. Like when I've been to interviews, when they've meant a lot to me, I've gone out and bought a new dress. I've gone out and probably checked, even to do with jewellery. I've thought about what type of makeup I'm going to wear, kept it really natural. I've thought about absolutely everything, because I don't want that to be the reason that someone says, oh, this person's a little bit out there. Once you get the job, you can do what you want. You can dress probably differently. You can probably, act differently, but you haven't got the job yet. So what I would say is put the effort into that. The next thing that's really important is set time aside to job search, to do, if you're someone who's really struggling with getting a job, it could be that you are not putting enough time and energy in, you're doing it in an ad hoc way. So you've got people who are just randomly doing the searches on job sites, and they're just picking a job here and there. You're in desperate mode when you're doing that, but also you're not doing it in a structured way. What you need to do is to put aside a certain amount of time. So you might say 1 hour a day, or you might say 2 hours a week, or you might say this month you're going to put a set amount of time. When you're putting that time aside, you're going through all the websites in a particular way. You're doing, I'm so specific with it, because even with me, even when I've had a job, when I've browsed, I still do it in a specific way. So first of all, in the search, you'll make sure all the criteria is there. If you only want part-time work, then put that in the filters, part-time. If you only want remote, put remote in the filters. Put a specific job title in the search bar. This will all save you a lot of time, because then the 100 jobs will come up and you can study those first. Then you can widen your search. What people are doing is sometimes they're just putting in certain jobs and then they've got 10,000 jobs coming up, which you're not going to have the time to look through. And you're giving up and you're saying, oh, I've had enough. And then you're not actually applying for any jobs. Set yourself a target. If your target is 10 job applications, then do 10. I've always done that. If I've set myself a target that I'm going to apply for 10 jobs in a week, or that's not even a lot, 10 in a day maybe, then I'm not stopping until I've applied for 10, but I'm going to take my time, and maybe that takes 4 hours, maybe that takes 5 hours. So you just have to be a bit more strategic with it. That's one thing. The next thing, this is a big thing that's coming up recently over the last, I'd say since COVID, but over the last few years. Certain employers or certain companies, they will open up the job applications, and then you will see 700 to 800 people, sometimes 1,000 people, all applying for the same job. Now, if you want to get the job, do you think it's likely, if 1,000 people have applied for this one job, that what do you think your likely chances of getting an interview? Is it less or more than someone, if there's a job that has got 30 applicants? I always look at applicants. So if I see a job and there's more than 100 applicants applied, or 150 or 200, I don't even apply. Even if I know that I could probably get the job, I don't apply, because I just think to myself, especially when it's 600. To be fair, someone the other day said that there were 700 applicants that had applied for it, and I just thought, they're not going to look through all those 700 CVs. They're not going to read 700 application forms. They're going to be picking criteria on other bases. So whilst you're doing that, you could say to yourself, what I'm going to do, the other point to think about as well, is it also tells you that the field that you're applying for is overly competitive, it's oversaturated. So there's a few things within that, and I can go into so much detail on this because I was having the same conversation with one of my clients. But first of all, you have to think if the market you want to go into is oversaturated. So say that you want to apply as a lawyer, doctor, or something which has got loads of people, but then you know that there's 500 people applying for that as well. You can consider, do you want to specialise? Do you want to go into something that's similar but not the same? That's one thing. You could consider if where you're living or the location you are is having an impact, because if you're going to apply for a job as a stockbroker in London, for example, with one of the top stock market places, same as in New York, I suppose, are you going to be more likely to get that job versus if you apply for the same job but in a different location where there's hardly any people who do that? Tradesmen would say that to you. If you're the only trader in your town or your village, you're the only plumber, you're the only electrician, you're going to get all the jobs because everyone still needs that profession, but there's no one else around who's doing it. You know, it's supply and demand. So that's something to consider as well. The less applicants is, you've got a better chance. Now it's back to what Yasmin was saying earlier about work experience. Whenever you apply for a job, you need to study the criteria, the person spec. So instead of focusing too much on the job description, which is still important, the person spec is even more important, because there's going to be things that are desirable, meaning that they would like you to have that. It's ideally, but you don't have to have it. But the thing you have to look out for is the essential things. Now, even though this seems like common sense, there are lots of people who still apply for jobs when they don't fit the criteria. They don't have those essential things, but they say, I'll apply anyway and see what happens. Even if you get the interview, because sometimes companies will be like, okay, we've not got many candidates, we'll do the interview. They're still not going to hire you, because the whole reason of them putting that person spec saying essential means that you've got to have it. It's the same as with dating. If it's a deal breaker, or if it's something someone has to have, they might still go on the date with you, but they're not really going to continue, because they're going to say, well, I knew that I didn't want to date someone with kids. Well, there is more of a compromise there. Yasmin, you've put, oh yeah, sorry, it's the same comment. So don't apply for jobs if you know that you don't fit the essential criteria. The desirable is different, but I mean, that still helps, but you don't have to have that. But study this job spec a lot more, okay? So there's 3 more things that I want to add to this live stream. So the next one is to reach out to your networks for opportunities. So if you are, I'm self-employed, so for me, I need to constantly be marketing. I constantly be getting referrals. So on New Year's Day, not New Year's Eve, but New Year's Day, because I knew that there probably lots of people are going to be sleeping, I was thinking, I'm getting my laptop out, and I sent emails on New Year's Day to 3 of the contracts that I normally send me referrals for clients as a counsellor. And I just said, do you have any referrals? Or I've said, I'm available to pick up more clients. I got 4 clients just from doing that. So you have to take the opportunities. You know, if you want the career that you want, if you're unemployed and you want a job, if you want something, if you want the opportunity, it's not just going to fall on your lap. Sometimes opportunities come along, you know, unexpected, but most of the time you have to find them. So what you would be doing is reaching out to people, even people around you, even friends, family. You can say, is there any work that you need doing? My brother said the other day, he said to me, have you got any work that you need to do? And in fact, I said to him, yeah, I do, because I do have a few things in the house that I need doing and I've not got round to. And now, because he asked, because otherwise I wouldn't have asked him, I would have just done them myself. I will ask him to come along and do them for me, and that's because he asked, and I will pay him money to do it as well. So you have to find the opportunities. That's the next thing. The other thing is keep your CV up to date. So my CV, every 6 months, I'll just do a little tweak of it. You know, I'll add a few bits, I'll take things off there, I'll, you know, make sure things like email, phone, address is all up to date. People sometimes just have their CV and then they just think, oh, just send off my CV to lots of companies. But you need to also tailor it to the company. Hi, I'm Arthur. Tailor it to the company sometimes that you're applying to. If you're applying for a cleaning job and your cleaning experience is like barely on there, but you've got all these other jobs that you've done since, and they're all, what you have to think about is when people are reading your CV, they want to not only see like your most recent job, they want to see your past experience, but they want to see that you match their company. So there's no point in having a CV. Thanks Arthur, appreciate that. Having a CV that doesn't match who you're sending it to, and that's why like keeping your CV up to date means that you will always, you know, tweak it a little bit, and you won't just do this blanket, I'm going to send my CV to 70 companies without checking. So, and always write a cover letter as well, because cover letters people think are boring or they're not important. But if a company has got 20 CVs, or usually more than that, 50 CVs, and then only 2 of them have got covering letters, what they might do quickly is just read the cover letter. And if that's got something significant in it, you might be the one that they call in for the interview versus all the other CVs that don't have a cover letter. So I'd say that. And the final thing is just to be ready to do things that other people are not ready to do. Most of the time when I've got work, either as a counsellor or as a social worker, when I was a social worker, is because I was willing to work bank holidays. I was willing to work evenings. I mean, I don't work Sundays. I know some counsellors that do. I was willing to take on difficult cases. There was one situation where I was paid £950, it was nearly £1,000 a week, just for 3 months to go into a social work organisation where it was failing. This organisation was failing. All the social workers were leaving. They had, I think, about 10 resignations. The social workers that were still there were not doing the job properly. I was called in as an experienced social worker. It was hard work. It was very challenging. But for £950 a week, I thought, I'll do this. And you get expenses as well on top of that. But you have to put yourself in a position where you say, yes, I will do that. You know, it's like if you work in a company and they say hairdressers or a company, you have to start with sweeping the floors, and people are, I'm not going to do that. I'm too good to do that. They want to start at the top. But if you're the person that goes in there and you say, do you know, whatever I need to do, I'll do it. However hard I need to work, I'll work. Then you're setting yourself up as well for your next job, because on your CV you can say, I took on this role and it was challenging, so that you have to think long term as well. My CV's got loads of jobs on it, but a lot of times I've taken on responsibilities and tasks that other people haven't done. So I know that my CV, when they see it, they'll be like, oh, she's run groups. Oh, she's done, not only worked in Birmingham, but she's also travelled down to London to see clients. Oh, she's been a regional this, or she's supervised. You know, so it's got loads of specific tasks on there. So all I'll say to people really is, getting a job, it's not easy. But if you build yourself up and you put yourself in a position to receive, then anything's possible. You know, and all it takes is just a bit more guidance from people, a bit of time put aside to put into this. And as I've said, once I'm set up, because I give enough advice and enough guidance on this topic where I could just continue to do it, but I want to get certified. So once I'm certified as a career coach, on top of my other coaching and my counselling, then I will, you know, be taking on clients. I will be doing this in a more formal way, and I will be setting up a YouTube channel and a Facebook page just for the career coaching as well. So thank you everyone that joined today. Arthur, I really appreciate your comments, and Yasmin, and everyone else that joined. Feel free to leave your comments and I'll come back later and reply to anyone that has commented. So enjoy the rest of your day and week, and thanks for joining.